morning, Ela.
Hi, Viola.
Here we are. My name is Viola Edwards, and I live in Cyprus. And I'm here today with my darling sister, friend, and colleague, Ela Manga, Dr. Ela Manga, who's living in South Africa. How are you today?
I'm so good, Viola. It's so lovely to see you from across the world.
Yes, yes. And here we are today because Ela and me, we have created together a gift for you, and we call it the Breath Quotients Observation of Breath Intelligence. It's the BQ. And we are today here to tell you the story of the BQ. Are we ready for that? Yes. So it was January 2019, and I was in Davos, very, very cold, going to a meeting. And as I'm approaching the meeting, I see a big sign saying FQ, female quotient, which was the meeting I was going to. And when I look up, instead of seeing the FQ, I see the BQ. And it's almost like, it was like spark inside of my heart and my head and saying, how I didn't think of that before. So when I came back from Davos, from the World Economic Forum, I met with some of my Breathwork friends and I told them, I'm doing this, I'm creating the BQ. But for some reason or another, it will not, the conception, it's like, let's say the conception happened that day in Davos, but the gestation was a little bit slow until July 2019, and I went to California, to Joshua Tree, to our meeting, Global Inspiration Conference, that is sponsored by IBF, International Breathwork Foundation. And I met a new love in my life, which is Dr. Ela Manga. So when I met her, she had the smile you're seeing now. And when I heard her talking in her collaboration for the administrative meeting and and her talk, I said I knew why I didn't start yet the BQ. So I tell her my story, and she said yes. And since then we were talking and working about the BQ, the observation of breath intelligence by Dr. Ela Manga and Viola Edwards. And we've been spreading it around as a gift, and and now it's born and breeding. And today is our first meeting together to send you and to share with you. We share it with you already through a document and through a flyer, but it's the first time that together we are sharing it with you through a video. So Ela, again, welcome to my life and welcome to today. And let's tell us your story about the BQ. This is my story. What's your story?
Well, it's really interesting that you describe how this idea of BQ just lit up for you, and I think I'm sure it was around the same time that the idea kind of fleetingly came through my consciousness, but then left again. And so when I met you at Joshua Tree and you mentioned BQ, it was like, wow, it just reawakened something that was already kind of, the seed was planted somewhere already. And I love that about the creative force, is that it kind of passes through and it lands in various places at the same time. And then, when the time is right, it just kind of comes together and, it's birthed. So
Yeah.
I was just so excited that you shared this with me and allowed me the opportunity to create this with you.
Yes, it was so nice, so nice. And of course, we shared with some colleagues and friends, and we went into editing and correcting, and we just launched the first one, and it's going to come the second one with more detail and techniques, etc. But this BQ, observation of breath intelligence, is for everyone and anyone who want to observe their breathing and without any external instrument to be able to evaluate and improve. Of course, in your wording, Ela, how would you say that this is not anything that will will substitute any medical test or anything? How would you say that in your own words?
Mm. They basically are parameters or experiential parameters that supports our relationship with the breath and thus our relationship with life. So when we can expand our repertoire of breathing skills and deepen our awareness of breath, then our whole body becomes the vehicle for expressing life force. And over time, because of past trauma or because of past injury or even our birth process, the physical mechanism becomes contracted. Our physical bodies become contracted, which also then could be reflective of patterns of thinking and fear that we build up in the system, which then get reflected in the way that we breathe, because the breath is a language. And
Exactly.
so so the breath is constantly reflective of the way we think, the way we feel, our posture, our movement. And
Yes.
so these parameters of breath intelligence are awareness points that support us to create a freedom and expansion in our breath mechanism, and thus an expansion in the way we're thinking, an expansion in the range of feelings that we are able to navigate, and a softness in the body so that life force is able to flow freely through us.
Yes, and if I read to you what we put together, what Ella was talking, is breathing is far more than the exchange of air. It is a language. That I love that. It is a language. It is a reflection of the quality of life force as it is expressed through the body, mind, and heart. Every breath that we take mirror our conscious and unconscious thought, the emotion, feeling, and sensation that we experience in every moment of life. The breath can also be a reflection of deeply held emotional trauma, of habitual patterns of tension that have been carried from the moment of conception or the experience of birth, and the conditioning imprinted by family, culture, and the journey of life itself. And I am somebody who studied breathwork with one of the founders, or the father of conscious connected breathing, Leonard Orr. And I remember my fascination in that time in early 90s, how conscious connected breathing adds so much knowledge and biography to the importance of birth and conception, that in that time still we didn't talk about it so much in psychology, didn't we? So it's a huge add-on to what so far we know or we knew back then, when the breath conscious connected breathing was created, late 60s, early 70s. What's the importance of that first breath? And now we have studies, and we're going to launch. Hopefully you can join us too with another friend. Her name is Dr. Elina Pedersen. We're doing a whole studies through an institute of research, of a research institute, of what does it mean, that first breath, and how that first breath influences our life. So if we continue here in our document, and between me and Ella, we're going to give it to you all in different sessions. We're not going to do it all today. So observation of the subtle nuisance
Nuances.
of our
Nuances.
pattern
Yeah.
is simply the most obvious and measurable way to observe the mental and emotional fluctuations reflected in our physiology. And this is why being with Ella as a medical doctor, and a doctor who expand her practice to energy medicine, is so important. Through our awareness of the breath as a support for mindfulness and presence, we are offered an entry point to help release unconscious breathing habits that hinder clarity and balance. Ella, can you develop this concept a little bit more?
So, I mean, we go back to the idea of breath being a language. And when we can bring our conscious awareness to what is usually unconscious, part of the body's autonomic nervous system bringing itself into balance, then it gives us the opportunity to participate in the process of breath, bringing us back into a state of alignment and balance. So, you know, it's really easy when we are not aware for these habits of breathing to become part of a neural pathway. So that is linked to the way that we think, the way that we feel, the posture that we hold, and the breathing pattern that is reflective of that particular neural pathway. And so if we are to free ourselves to create a new neural pathway that is more free, that is more expansive, that is more love-based, we are able to change the way that we breathe. We are able to participate in the expression of life force to spark up new ways of being, to spark up new ways of thinking, a new way of feeling, you know,
and new ways of managing our energy, especially in times like this, because feeling and thinking, and even the word that we use, it impact our feeling and thinking, because the word that we use, it will impact our breath, and our breath will impact everything else we do. Yes.
Absolutely. And it's all reflective of that. You know, you speak about words, the language that we use is deeply connected to our underlying belief systems, the way we perceive ourselves and the way we perceive the world. And so the breath becomes a really easy entry point, because sometimes it's not so easy to bring light to belief systems that reside in the subconscious mind.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, but yet when we cultivate a relationship with the breath, you know, it is a very kind of practical and easy entry point to observe, okay, my breath is feeling like this right now. What is that bringing to my awareness around what I'm holding in my body? When we become aware of the breath, we become more aware of our body, the way we think, the way we feel. And so in doing so, we are feeling really empowered in changing the way that we breathe, to shift our state, to shift our physiology, to manage our energy, to feel in control when the world feels so out of control right now.
Exactly.
You know, it is one thing that is certain in a world that is so incredibly uncertain.
Yes, exactly. And this is what I say in all these interviews we've been around, is when I wake up in the morning, when I have consciousness about me, aware and awake, is that I'm breathing, and the first thing I do is to breathe with more consciousness, because where there is breath, there is life, and when there is life, there is possibilities. And as you're saying, in this moment of uncertainty, if I'm certain that I'm breathing, the rest we will see, we will deal with it. There is infinite possibility. It's not only a possibility like this, it's not only a possibility one, is a possibility like that. It open in many ways. Maybe none of those is the perfect and is the one that you wanted, but certainly it's not only one. It's not only an action with a reaction. There is many ways how we can face a situation. And for that, you and me, we decided, instead of making just a statement about BQ, we decided to call it observation, because both of us, we work with empowerment. We have two words in Ela's work and my work that is, you will hear us continuously talking about it. One is empowering of the self through the breath, and the other one is enabling how that empowerment will sit, will be expressed, will be expanded, and will be seen by the self, by the family, by the community. So it's not only to face a power, it's what to do with that power to be sustainable, to be beneficial for me and for people around me. And this is the reason, and this is the reason why we call it observation, because to be able to empower yourself, you need to develop the observer. You need to develop that one who's accompany you all the time, who's the first one who's telling you, oops, that was not right. And maybe you're so fortunate like I am, and I live with my husband and my sister that both of them are breath worker. So in my case, if I make the mistake to say, that was stupid what I did, I have one of them who telling me, apologize to yourself, please. So, but this is my fortune to, on top of my own observant, I have two conscious people with me who are reminding me how to be, how to acknowledge who I am. And this is very important. But meanwhile, we have these other people in our life. We need to develop that one who really balance us and align us again when we go a little bit zigzagging in our thought, in our breath, or in our posture. Yes?
Yeah, it's so the breath is like an internal guide that says, hang on, okay, this is happening, come back to center. So it's both a way to observe and a way to come back, which is what I love. And I love what you're saying about observations, Viola, because for me, BQ is not a hard and fast measurable, they are guidelines. You know, because the breath is so expansive, and this has been my kind of experience in my own relationship with the breath, and why I sometimes struggle with the word science, the science of breathing. And even though there's beautiful science and it has its place, the nature of breath is beyond what the rational mind can understand. And so observations for me is a far more apt word than measurable for breath, because it is so fluid and changeable and responsive to so many factors. And so that's why we chose to use the word observations rather than measurables.
Yes, and also in our encounters, you will hear us a lot talking about the art and the science of conscious breathing. I know many people will want to know more about measure and about science, and we, under any circumstances, denying that. For that, I chose Ela as a medical doctor, this is her field and her love for medicine and serving. But beyond that is why I chosen you to be with me is your humanity. So it's like we will not be blind by one way or another. We are inclusive in breathwork. One of the things I learned through the conscious connected breathing from the world where I came from, I was in high speed manager in the corporate world, and I was trapped in some addictions and sleeping little and not breathing. And actually I can see now how it is to be living like a died person, and how it is that with the breath and the consciousness about the breath, I get consciousness about the beauty of life and how I embrace my life, even though by then, we're talking about late 80s, early 90s, even though it's like my decision was to embrace life, but actually I didn't know how, because when we are trapped in addiction, it seems like it's bigger than us. So when I enter into this world to, first of all, acknowledge my life, my breath, and having the decision, yes, I'm moving, I'm shifting. And then with the beautiful mentorship I have in my life, and then the methodology, the technique, the process, the psychotherapy, then it was my decision, which it was in a way not enough if I don't have the tools. And the tools are not enough if I don't have my decision. So for that is a combination of things and decision and willpower and motivation and inspiration and mentoring, and who's gonna hold you in the process, and breath worker and people that I find in my past, they were so beautiful to hold me in that process where I doubt so much about myself, and when I thought already life was gone, because this is how I experience it from the world of addiction. Life was gone. I'm damaged when I wake up. But actually no. The breath force was there, and all life possibilities, or many life possibility was there. It's true that I have one of my lung damaged because I used to be a chain smoker. But with the consciousness of the breathing, about the breathing, that long works in the best possibilities. So we can even stop a damage. Maybe we cannot reverse a damage, but we can stop a damage and be aware of it. Yes. So what I wanted to tell you again, let me read you, because I'm gonna read you what we created, because I just love it in the way how it come out, and then we keep our conversation. So breath.
Before you go there, Viola, I just want to touch on something that you've just said,
Yeah.
which I think is so important. I just loved what you said about the, relating to what you're observing and using the breath as a tool. I think that's so important, because while psychotherapy can bring awareness to our internal relationship, what do we do with that? How do we relate to that? And so the breath becomes a tool of relationality, a way that we can relate to ourselves, the way that we can get support from others. And it is also a way that we connect to nature that we are a part of.
Yes. Isn't that beautiful? The breath is a tool of relationality. This is what you said? This is what you said? It's an
Yes.
expression. And I said that I'm a relational being, and where life throw me, I'm living my fourth migration, God knows which one, different language, different family. And the fact that I'm relational, that I managed to relate, is what saved me. And where I have this idea about me, it doesn't matter what life, where I'm gonna wake up one morning, I'm gonna be on my feet, I'm gonna be conscious of my breathing, I'm gonna create a good life for myself and for other people around me. And that is the consciousness of the breath, and the conscious relation with the breath. So it's very important when we talk about communication. And as a couple counselor, I talk a lot. Communication is so important, and I repeat to them many times. How is it that we're gonna develop communication with the other if our own communication is not? If the intrapersonal communication is not set? If my right brain communication with the left brain is not set, if my communication with my breath is not clear. So it is very important when we are developing a life with other people, and we're entering into a life of recovery from not only from addiction, what happened to me, but also a recovery from a recovery from chronic pain, a recovery from gossiping, a recovery from feeling victim, a recovery from any way that you've been trapped, and you're going into the recovery of that. You need to relate with your breath to be able to relate with your thought and your feeling and the way how you speak. One
Exactly.
One story I have about me is that I was quite advanced in, I'm vegan since early 90s, and I was quite advanced in my clarity about food and about breath and about meditation and mindfulness. But still my body expression, it was because I'm coming from a family who have grieved many losses, not only my father, the country. I'm half Lebanese, which is a country who suffered a war for 15 years. We emigrated to Venezuela. I was born in Iraq, where we suffer a lot of losses too. So one day I was walking and I saw my shadow in a window, and I was very young, young and beautiful and powerful. And I saw this, and I just saw myself and remember other members of my family that they can't, doesn't matter how life changed, they were hooked by the war, by the losses, by the pain. And I get that consciousness about myself because already my breath shifted. And that helped me to know I'm not that person anymore. And, it's like the position will take my breath again to be collapsed, and my body position to be victimized. And since then, I did a lot of work with the mirror, and I did a lot of work of just being more of a smiling person in the world. Doesn't matter. Sometimes I get some critic about it, but it's much better than having an image that didn't belong to me, belong to my ancestor belong to people who suffer other realities, but I was out knowing, and even though I suffered some of it, but I was inheriting so much about it. And that is the observation that you also develop. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Viola. And I love that the BQ system is a way that we can use the breath to become aware of our relationship with our body, with old patterns, our relationship with our voice, our relationship with the way we move. So each of these points or these parameters that we share in this framework is almost like a tool of relationality with various aspects of ourselves. And that's what I love about it, that it's so all-encompassing.
Yes. And we're going to give some small exercise today. And when we tell you about consciousness for now, I'm not telling you about do this technique or do this other technique. This is another subject. For now, it's just your observation. It's just how the BQ is about same thing as you remember when the EQ come out, we were so fascinated to know what is the importance of the wording, how important it is not to say I'm depressed when I'm not depressed, I'm just confused, or I'm a little sad, or I'm preoccupied. The way how the beauty of the emotional intelligence is to be this detector of knowing what emotion I'm going through. Yeah, to be able then not to be trapped in an emotion that is not what I'm going through. The same thing here with the BQ. It's about this observation about for now. We're not asking you to develop any technique or to do anything. It's just to be observant of how your breathing maybe is collapsed or is tight or is too wide or just whatever. Just we will answer you later. We will leave you our emails and we will do another set of interviews live so you can interact with us. But for today, let me read you this. Breath Intelligent BQ is an essential set of breathing parameters, as Ela already told us, that we can observe and track in ourselves. It can also serve as a guideline for mentor, coaches, therapists, and health practitioners in the assessment and monitoring of the breathing characteristic of people they are working with and supporting. Isn't that important for you? Also, as a health practitioner, is how the person in front of you is breathing. Just when but it's very difficult to observe the other one if you don't know how to observe the self. For that, many practitioners don't get it right because they want to learn a technique. And I remember studying with Leonard Orr and how much emphasis he used to do not to trapped the conscious kinetic breathing as a technique or as a therapy or it was the wording that we find out in that time. It was an inspiration because it has the word of inspire and also the inspiration to open a whole world for you. So when you learn, yes, Ela?
It's about freeing the breath. As you're talking, I'm feeling that what you're saying is that the breath is really beyond technique. Yes, the techniques are helpful, to self-regulate, to use as a way to manage feelings, emotions, regulate our state. But really, what breath intelligence is about is freeing the breath up, freeing the breath mechanism up, so that it's fluid, so that it's flowing, and that we are able to work with it more skillfully in any situation that we need.
Yes, and I will show you this video without any editing, and you will see at the beginning when I start talking, my voice was different, my breath was different, I was late, I get some technical issues with the Zoom and the computer. I'm not a technical person. And I wanted to, usually I don't edit because I want you to accept the self. So imagine that through the BQ, as with the EQ and the IQ, I know who I am, but I know that in certain circumstances, my behavior shift a little bit. But if I have the breath, yeah, if I have the breath, if I'm observing and I'm not ashamed, yeah, so it's okay to be, it's okay. Even I was reading the first paragraph and you see that I made some mistake or my accent was a little bit weird. It is just okay. Just accept yourself, observe your breathing, and you know, when you observe it and you take a deeper breath, when you just have a pause, knowing who you are beyond the self-judgment, beyond other people's judgment, because you own your breath. So we will finish today very soon after an exercise, but I want to tell you something. If you own your breath, nobody can take your freedom. Repeat after me. If I own my breath, nobody can take my freedom. Even though I make mistake, even though I can fall, even though I can mumble, I breathe and I get it straight again. And then I accept whatever I called mistake or mumbling as part of my humanity, because I own my breath and I know who I am. So, will you repeat again after me? When and as I own my breath, nobody can take my freedom. Nobody. And in time of uncertainty, you need to own your breath. Ela, shall we?
I love that.
Yes. Shall we do the square or the box breathing? So people can, because we're gonna do these interviews very, we're gonna be sending you these videos, and every time there is a breathing exercise and more sharing. So let's finish today with one of the breathing that everybody can do, gently.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And this is a very powerful technique to bring a sense of calm focus and a sense of, yes, I'm in control, and not in a rigid way, but that I am feeling empowered to change my state. And so really this technique is breaking the breath up into 4 parts: the inhalation, the pause after the inhalation, the exhalation, and the pause after the exhalation, to make each part equal so that it looks like a square. Okay. It's important that when we practice this technique and when we're inhaling, we are feeling like we are expanding from the center of our being. So we really are feeling that the abdomen and the chest is rising, rather than kind of doing that and using the neck and the shoulder muscles. So keep those shoulders nice and soft and the back of the neck soft. And I'm going to describe the technique and then we'll practice it together. All right. So just create your posture of presence. So settle into your body, placing your feet on the floor, relaxing your shoulders, relaxing the back of your neck. And when we're inhaling, we'll start with a gentle count of 4. Don't worry too much about the count. Rather, just feel a sense of expansion in your body. Okay. So it's a long inhale. And it's a lovely pause, just keeping the breath, holding the breath, allowing the body just to receive that breath. Releasing, letting go completely as you exhale, feeling like your whole body is letting go. And just enjoying that beautiful pause after the exhalation before you take the next inhale in. All right. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin with a soft sigh of relief. A long, beautiful inhale.
Always using your nose.
Always the nose. For this technique, we're breathing through the nose. Keep it there. Exhale, release, let go. and enjoy the pause. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Expand, breathe in, fill up your body. Keep it there. Receive the energy of the breath. Exhale, release, let go. And enjoy that pause, that space between. Inhale, expand, open. Pause, receive. Exhale, release, soften, let go. Enjoy that pause between in your own time.
And inhale again and let go. Thank you so much. Ela, everybody can do this?
Anybody can do that.
Exercise.
Start with a count that feels comfortable for you. And as you practice more, you may feel that you're able to, increase your count to 5 to 6. But just feel like you are keeping a softness in your body. And the more soft you are in your body, the longer you'll be able to hold.
Yes.
So you can start with 3, you can start with 4, you can start with 5, and see how it works for you. Now, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. And have fun practicing with that.
Ela, where people can find you?
Okay, so my website, drelamanga.com. That's ELAMANGA.com. And www.breathworkafrica.co.za.
Beautiful. And you know where you can find me by www.violaedward.com. And almost all my social media is with my name. And I have another website, which is www.grit-academy.co. And we, Ela and I, we are breathwork trainer, international breathwork trainers. And we will be talking more about it for all those of you who would like to become breathworker or who would like to do some work online or whatever we can support you with. Or also, I've been in different webinars and interview with network empowering women around the world, and men and couple and family. So count on us. I'm gonna tell you today goodbye. Thank you so much, Ela. I'm so happy about not only the birth of our BQ and also now the birth of our videos, that we're gonna have a series of them in YouTube and everywhere. So follow us. Thank you very much and see you very soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.